What happens when a school bully decides to humiliate a quiet black girl by tying her to a flagpole, just for laughs? He had no clue she was a martial arts champion. What followed left the whole campus speechless. You ever start your day thinking, it'll be nothing out of the ordinary? That was Maya Ellison that morning, 16 years old, black, calm like a still lake, but sharper than anyone gave her credit for. The kind of girl who'd hold the door even when no one said thank you. That day, she was crossing the quad at East Ridge High, arms full of history books, sleeves pushed up, trying not to drop any. She had volunteered, on her own, to help. Her history teacher moved the books to the library. No applause, no reward, just doing good because that's who she was. But East Ridge didn't always meet kindness with kindness, especially not black kindness. And leaning against the edge of the courtyard, like it was his personal stage, stood Trent Lawson, the police chief's son. Buzzed blonde hair, school jacket way too snug, and a grin like he'd never heard the word no. Not from teachers. Not from coaches, and definitely not from his father. Maya didn't see him at first. She was too focused on her balance. But Trent saw her, and in his eyes, her quiet, her grace, her skin, they weren't strength. They were a threat. And Trent didn't like to be threatened. Dignity clung to the air like smoke after something had burned, and for a heartbeat, just one, even Miss Turner didn't move. Then came her voice. Untie her, now. Sharp, commanding. Heads turned in unison. Laughter stopped like someone hit pause. But Trent? He just tilted his head and smirked. She said she liked it, he shrugged. Said it made her feel special. You could have heard a leaf drop. The crowd split instantly as Mr. Dalton, the assistant principal, rushed out of the building, face red, voice caught in his throat. He tore the belt off and helped Maya down, her knees stiff, her arms trembling, not with fear but with rage quiet. His breath. Who did this? Dalton asked, scanning the sea of faces. No one, muttered one boy, eyes glued to his phone. She did it herself. It's like a thing now. Ms. Turner stepped forward, ready to speak. But someone else beat her to it. I have a video, a freshman girl shouted from the edge of the crowd, holding her phone like it could save her life. Then, dead silence. Trent turned slowly. His fake grin faded, eyes locked on the girl. You sure about that? He said under his breath, passing her with a chill colder than winter. Not loud, not obvious, but enough. She didn't speak again. The crowd vanished like smoke in the wind. Phones slipped away. Whispers bloomed. But when the moment came to act, everyone looked down. In the office, Maya sat across from three adults, trying too hard to sound reasonable. Ms. Turner stood behind, her fists clenched. We're not saying it's your fault, Dalton began, but some students felt you might have been attracting attention. Maya stared at the wall, still shaking, not from cold, but from the weight of those words. Attracting attention. She was carrying books. Now she was being blamed for how others reacted to her silence, her stillness, her skin. That day, she learned something sharp. Silence, when you're black, can be twisted into anything. A threat, a statement, even an invitation, and those in power, they'd rather keep things quiet than speak the truth. This is it, the turning point. Stay with us, because this story is just getting started. Coach Wen didn't interrupt, didn't ask questions. He just stood there, watching, like a man who'd seen too many young black souls try to bottle up storms and end up drowning in silence. When her hands were sore beneath the wraps and the heavy bag finally went still, he spoke. Strength isn't always the answer. Maya stood still, chest rising, shoulders shaking, not from effort, but from that heat under her skin. I know, she whispered. But what if staying quiet hurts? More? That landed deep. Coach didn't counter her words. No cheesy quotes. No lessons disguised as sympathy. He just gave a nod, walked over to the back shelf, and grabbed an old chest guard, frayed at the seams, worn from time and trial. He handed it to her like a knight's shield. Then train, he said. Like, everything depends on it, because sometimes it does. That was it. No speeches, no pity. Just space. Space to fight back against what the world had dumped on her. Maya stayed until night folded itself over the windows. Until the glass fogged with breath and effort. Sweat hit the mats like punctuation marks, her movements turned into meaning. Each punch a phrase, each block a sentence. She was reclaiming her voice, not through words, but through motion. She didn't cry. She didn't need to. Her tears had already learned how to throw punches. They called it a hearing. But Maya knew what it really was. A staged performance, a formality to file away the truth without smudging the school's record. She walked into the boardroom like stepping into enemy territory. Shiny table, varnished floors, the kind of space where voices echoed, but truth never stuck. Even the flag in the corner stood stiff, like it didn't want to be involved. Maya sat across from Trent Lawson, the real reason she was there, though no one dared say it. He lounged in his chair like a VIP waiting on room service, one leg bouncing, hands behind his head, reeking of confidence like he knew the system had his back. Principal Harris sat at the head, flanked by 2 assistants and a school board official who looked like she hadn't set foot in a classroom since dial-up internet was a thing. All pretending. Their minds were open when the verdict was already written. "Let's keep this constructive," Harris began, with that manager at a diversity training tone. "We just want to hear both perspectives and reach a peaceful resolution." Maya didn't speak. Not because she didn't want to, but because she knew. The moment she did, they'd bend her words into something they weren't. So she brought backup, the freshman girl, the one who'd yelled out with her phone yesterday. She sat beside Maya, clutching the device like it might bite. Maya believed in her, hoped she'd stay strong. But then came the question, "Can you tell us what you saw?" Harris asked. The girl blinked, paused, then collapsed inward. "I'm not really sure," she mumbled. Maybe it was just a joke, like they were just messing around. Maya felt her breath vanish, like a punch straight to the gut. Trent grinned, didn't even try to hide it. He leaned in, cool and smug. "It was just a bit of fun," he said. "She never told us to stop. I mean, if someone's uncomfortable, they'd say something, right?" "Yeah." He glanced at Maya as he said it. Trent was slick. He knew exactly what he was doing, planting doubt in a room already leaning toward belief in him, because silence from a black girl. That could mean anything to people who feared conflict, more than they cared about justice. The room went quiet. Not thoughtful quiet, just the kind that waits for someone else to decide. And Harris did. "Well, it looks like there's been a misunderstanding. No real harm was done, and since intent isn't clear," he looked over his glasses, fingers folded. "We'll consider this resolved." Resolved, like this was some petty disagreement over a cafeteria tray. Maya didn't argue, didn't protest, didn't defend herself. She knew the moment she stepped in there, they had already picked comfort over truth. She rose slowly, adjusting her sleeves with the kind of grace her grandmother would have called armor. Not to protect herself from pain, but to keep it from spilling out in front of people who didn't deserve her pain. Trent trailed her out of the room, still grinning, still untouchable. Just before they parted ways, he leaned in, like he was sharing a secret. "See," he whispered, "you're good for standing still. Tied up, quiet, just how we like you." Maya didn't flinch, didn't turn around, but something inside her broke clean, not out of rage, not for revenge, but from clarity. That was the last day she let her silence be mistaken for permission, because Trent, he wasn't just a boy with a smirk and a belt. He was a symbol, a living reminder of what happens when girls like her are told to stay polite, invisible and silent, just to keep others at ease. He didn't know it yet, But the fuse he lit was already burning, and that girl at the flagpole? She wasn't staying tied down. Not in this story, not ever again. 2 days later, lunch break. Sun blazing, air heavy with heat, an unspoken tension no one dared name out loud. Maya stood in the courtyard, backpack over one shoulder, earbuds in. But no music playing. She wasn't hiding. Wasn't trying to stand out either. She was just there, existing, breathing, being. And in a place like this, that alone was enough to poke at someone like Trent Lawson. He strolled over, swagger sharp, wearing that arrogance like it came with his DNA. No belt this time, just bare hands and that same cocky smile that had never been told no. Round 2? He grinned, arms wide like a hug made of bad decisions. Maya didn't speak, didn't blink. That got to him. He stepped closer, too close. Reached out, maybe to shove her, maybe to remind her who he thought she was. But this time? She moved first. Before his hand got halfway there, her fingers locked around his wrist, like a trap snapping shut. No shouting, no hesitation, just control, precision, power. What the? He gasped, trying to pull away. She didn't let go. She twisted, pivoted clean, dragged his arm across her center, and in one fluid motion dropped him to his knees. The sound of bone on concrete echoed. "Let me go," he screeched, voice cracking. Like glass. "You're hurting me," she leaned in, calm like a thundercloud speaking. "I'm just getting started." Phones came out. But this time, no one laughed, no one stepped in. They just watched, silent, wide-eyed. Trent, the king, of the courtyard, wriggling at the feet of the girl he once tried to break. Maya let go, gave him the choice to walk away. That was his second mistake. He lunged, clumsy, desperate. All ego, no strategy. Maya moved again, a smooth pivot, sweeping low with precision. Trent's legs shot out from under him like someone yanked the earth away. He hit the ground, face first. Hands slapped the pavement. Too late. His white jersey tore, his knee scraped, his pride shattered completely, on full display. And Maya? She stood tall, still not angry, still not raging, just steady, like a tree that had finally decided it would. Bend no more. She didn't shout, didn't posture, no performance, no pose. She wasn't putting on a show. She was reclaiming space, not above him, not below. Just equal. In a world that tried everything to convince her she wasn't. And then, with more power than 1,000 speeches, she walked away. No dramatic exit. No threat tossed over the shoulder. Just that same quiet presence, once overlooked, now holding the entire courtyard in stunned silence. By sunrise, the internet had seen it. 8 million views, and counting. The caption was blunt, like a verdict delivered. "Bully ties black girl to pole. She's a black belt. Watch what happens." No. Music, no filters, no edits, just raw truth. A high school courtyard turned coliseum, where the so-called king got folded like yesterday's clothes in front of everyone. Maya didn't even know it was online. She didn't post it. Someone else did. Someone who decided silence wouldn't be the final word, and the internet? It listened. By lunch, hashtags lit up. Justice for Maya. Strong not silent. TikTok tore it apart, frame by frame. Twitter flared up. Instagram flooded with slow-motion clips of Trent mid-fall, his face twisted in disbelief. Then the news came. Local media swarmed East Ridge High like they were covering a breaking emergency. Reporters with cameras, mics in students, faces. Every hallway filmed like it held the truth the school had tried to bury. And the administration? They panicked. The same principal who had preached hearing both sides was now hiding in his office, dodging interviews. Teachers who once turned away suddenly disappeared when cameras rolled. And the students? They weren't whispering anymore. They were speaking, loudly, about what they'd seen. What they'd always known, How long this kind of thing had been happening, just never caught on camera. But the real shift came when Maya's parents walked in. Not yelling, not looking for a fight. They came with receipts, security footage, witness, statements, screenshots, and one sharply dressed civil rights lawyer who had handled these cases before. And one, they didn't ask for a meeting. They filed an official complaint and made it clear they weren't backing down. Meanwhile, Trent Lawson's world started to split at the seams. His father, Sheriff Alan Lawson, called a press conference, stood tall behind the county seal. Voice, calm, speech rehearsed. We reject the false narrative circulating online. My son was the target of an unnecessary act of violence. But this time, it didn't stick, because the same boy who once tied up a black girl laughing was now frozen in a loop, crying on video, begging for mercy. And when the camera zoomed in, when America saw the sheriff's son tears-streaked, whimpering on the ground, the whole spin shattered, headlines flipped. The comment sections erupted. And for once, the story flipped in Maya's favor. No more questions thrown her way. No more rooms where she had to justify why she existed the way she did. That seat, the one reserved for explaining, was now occupied by the very people who failed her. The adults. The school. The system. As for Trent, he wasn't strutting anymore. He was shrinking, trying to vanish into the background. This time, there were no backroom meetings, no polite phrases, no binders full of excuses. This wasn't damage control. This was accountability. The school board reconvened, but now they weren't calling the shots. Front and center sat two new faces. The county prosecutor and an education inspector from the district, sent in after the governor's office took notice. Cameras weren't allowed inside, but every word spoken in that room was already echoing far beyond it. The evidence? Overwhelming. Video footage. Eyewitness accounts, screenshots, threats, all laid out like chess pieces. And for once, the powerful weren't holding the board. Miss Turner, Maya's history teacher, stood up first, steady, clear. No hesitation. She told them what she saw. A young girl tied to a flagpole while others laughed. Mr. Dalton, the assistant principal who once looked away, suddenly remembered everything. He spoke of the moment, the unease. Her silence. Late, but at least this time he spoke. Then, a voice no one expected to rise, the freshman girl. She stepped forward again, but now with fire behind her words, hands shaking. But her voice, solid. She talked about the pressure, the threats from Trent and his crew after she tried to speak out. She read the messages aloud, showed the screenshots, proof they tried to silence her. That changed everything. The room shifted. Suddenly it wasn't about Maya alone. It was about fear. About power protecting itself, and the dam broke. The school board, who once treated her pain like a scheduling inconvenience, had nowhere left to hide. They didn't just suspend Trent Lawson. They pulled him from every school event, banned him from campus, and issued a statement distancing the district from the behavior displayed. Translation? They finally admitted he did it, and they weren't done. The administrator who tried to bury it all, the one who told Maya maybe she was seeking attention, was fired. Effective immediately, the silence they used to shield themselves, now too loud to ignore, and sitting in the front row, calm, centered, unshaken, was Maya. No flashy outfit, just a crisp white shirt. And under that fabric, folded neatly, her black belt. Not as a threat, not for vengeance, but as a quiet reminder to herself and to them that her strength had always been there, long before they chose to see it. And now, for the first time in that room, truth wasn't gasping for air. It stood tall, just like her. 1 month later, the echoes hadn't vanished. They'd just shifted form. The video was still making the rounds, reposted, remixed, analyzed. But Maya? She had moved on, to something that couldn't be captured in a clip. Every Tuesday and Thursday, the old gym at East Ridge High filled with sound, the slap of bare feet on hardwood, the hiss of breath through focus, the rhythm of resilience. In the quiet between drills, she'd drop a phrase simple but unforgettable. You don't have to be strong all the time, but you do need to know when someone crosses a line. And be ready. They listened, not because she shouted, but because her words mattered. They knew what she'd survived. They had seen it, the hallway, the flagpole, the silence, the storm. But now they were witnessing something even rarer. What comes after survival? They had witnessed it, the hallway, the flagpole, the silence, the storm. But now, they were seeing something far rarer. What comes after surviving? As for Trent, he was gone. Shipped off to a pricey prep school where accountability came wrapped in soft explanations. His name still popped up on gossip threads now and then. But in Littleville, his chapter had closed. His father, the sheriff who once defended a version of the truth that never existed, quietly resigned. No farewell speech, no final press tour, just a headline. Then silence. But Maya didn't follow that story. She wasn't. Checking social feeds, didn't need the updates. When people asked if she'd ever watch the video again, the one that started it all, she always gave the same answer. I was there. That was enough. Coach Joaquin would sometimes watch her. From the edge of the room, arms folded, eyes filled with something deeper than pride. One day, after class, as the girls untied their shoes and wiped sweat from their brows, he leaned in. You still angry? Maya looked at him, then looked past him, like she was seeing something larger than both of them. No, she said. I just finally understand what silence can become, and what I can become too. She didn't need applause, didn't need headlines, didn't chase closure. She had a black belt tucked beneath a simple hoodie, a voice that no longer waited for permission, and a room full of girls who now knew exactly what strength looked like. Not loud, not furious, just ready. Because her belt, though unseen, shined brighter than any trophy in that building. It had been earned, and now she was passing it on.